Dr. Homebrew is brought to you by 5 Star Chemicals, providing safety and cleaning supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
Doctor, look!
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Clear.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. It is Dr. Homebrew. You are not dreaming. You are not under the influence of drugs. Well, you might be. But regardless, this is Dr. Homebrew with your host, JP. And with me, as always, are Brian and Lee, my two favorite master BGCP judges. Guys, how you doing?
Hi. Doing good?
Good. Good to have you guys back in. We only see each other like once a month, which I guess is, a lot more than never.
You look like you've aged more than a month.
I feel like I've aged more than a month. I'm got a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff happening in old JP's boring life, but you fight through these things with a heavy dose of beer and maybe whiskey every now and then.
Got to do it.
Thanks for joining us. If you haven't heard about Dr. Homebrew and this is your first time, welcome out of your rock, because this is the hottest thing that's going since cable internet dudes. We are a homebrew centric show, which is unheard of probably for everybody. But what we do is we invite people on our show. We invite them to send us their homebrew, and then we judge it on the air. And by we, I mean the judge is Brian and Lee. I just sit up here and pretend to do work, and then we interview the guy on the show. So we interview the brewer, get their feedback, get their background, and the guys kind of go to town and judge the beer. And then the home brewer, be it you or your best friend or whatever, you get to ask questions. So it's kind of an interactive BJCP score sheet, and I think you're really going to like it. But before we get into all that, I would like to give a big thank you and shout out to our sponsor, 5 Star. You can get all your cleaning needs met from 5starchemicals.com. Ask for them at your local homebrew supply store. Everybody knows 5 Star. They make PBW, they make Sandy Clean, they make Star San. They do all that kind of stuff. So whether you're making beer, making wine, making cider, making mead, or do whatever. I love using PBW to clean my bathroom. That stuff is great. I use it, ever since I started homebrewing. I've just been, not going to the store for cleaning chemicals, and I start grabbing PBW here and there. That stuff's rad. I love PBW.
And we have noticed that your hygiene's been improving lately, so
that's right.
It must be working for you.
Oh, man. I did floss today, twice, because I'm going to the dentist soon.
With PBW?
With PBW.
No, not recommended.
It's that grit. It's just, it gets right in there. But anyway, 5starchemicals.com. Go check them out. Go to your local homebrew shop, more importantly, and ask for it. So the beers we have on today, we have a West Coast style red IPA. That seems to be kind of an emerging style, a la Evil Twin from Heretic Brewing Company. Our first brewer actually tried to clone that beer, and he wants to know how close he did. That's just kind of a side note to to his beer. So we'll talk to Jake about that. And then after that, we have a Dry Stout from a listener called Richard, and those should be good. I'm kind of looking forward to these things. Stouts are one of my favorite styles, and you guys have already judged these beers, right?
Yes, we have.
All done, all over. We know.
we know the
envelope,
answer.
please.
We know which one's going to win in this 2-beer competition.
In case you haven't heard, also some more breaking news on the Brewing Network. We are no longer on Justin.tv. We actually have a proper streaming website, if you will, called Livestream. You go to new.livestream.com/thebrewingnetwork/Dr-Homebrew. And you can see us. You can see us right here, right on the little screen right there. We'll wave to you right there. And it's supposed to be a better picture, better overall audio quality, and none of those annoying pop-up ads you used to get on JTV. So go over there and check them out. Like us, friend us, do whatever you have to do. More importantly, just come watch. Come watch the back of my head instead of the back of Justin's head. Find out what it's like to look at someone without any hair versus a weird, greasy ponytail.
All right, you can see what we wrote on it.
You're right. I thought you were trying to get something off my head. I trusted you guys, and you broke our trust.
I'm not
My head.
touching
And
that. Okay.
the back of Justin's head. Find out what it's like to look at. Oh, I know what's going on. Okay, there we go.
We could put a different sticker on the back of your head every time on your hat.
I would sell the back of my head for sponsorship.
Cool.
I would definitely do that.
Skullboard, huh?
That's right. I think it'd be great. All right, let's take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to hear from Jake and his West Coast style red IPA. Back after this.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star Sand, SaniClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today. Where do you go for all the stuff you need to brew? Homebrewstuff.com, of course. In their Boise, Idaho storefront and warehouse, they have more than 750 craft beers and 8,000 square feet of homebrew products in stock. The staff at Homebrew Stuff are homebrewers themselves. They try out just about everything, including the beer, so they can answer your questions knowledgeably and correctly about brewing, kegging, and anything else you might need to ask. Don't live near the Homebrew Stuff store? Visit homebrewstuff.com online and take advantage of their $7.95 domestic shipping available on most orders. Homebrewstuff.com is a proud sponsor of the AHA, NHC, GABF, and countless other acronyms. So if you're a homebrewer looking for great people, a great selection, and great deals, head to homebrewstuff.com, online or in person. Visit their YouTube channel for loads of free how-to and product videos. All of the stuff you need to brew. homebrewstuff.com.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. Oh, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
That's right, it is Dr. Homebrew. You heard right. Once again, you're not on drugs. You might need to go in for a CAT scan because of that head injury you got as a kid. But for the most part, you've heard him properly. It is Dr. Homebrew. And then on the line, we should have Jake Jeffers. Jake, are you there?
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
Guys.
Hey, Jake.
Howdy.
Look, JP, this is what the back of your head looks like.
Oh, good. That's good to know. Some weird, creepy, flesh-colored egg. So, Jake, you sent us in a clone of the ever-popular Evil Twin from Heretic Brewing Company, right?
Yeah, well, it was a try.
It was a try. What do you mean? Have you ever had the beer before?
No.
Oh. So this was just a try off of... tell us a little bit about it. How did you go about crafting a recipe?
Well, I actually had been wanting to try this style for a while, and you guys did the recipe on the first Brewcaster Challenge. So,
yeah, I guess we did.
I used pretty close to that recipe.
Okay. All right. How long have you been homebrewing?
All grain since January.
Oh, nice. So is this still relatively new to you, or have you just been kind of hitting it hard?
Yeah, hitting it hard lately.
Yeah. How many batches have you done all grain since you started?
Oh, probably only about 6 or 7.
Okay, that's pretty good though. That's pretty good. 6 or 7 in so about 1 a month or so. Yeah. How you been enjoying it? You been digging on it?
Oh yeah, I love it. I've been an extract brewer for several years, so really glad to get into it. So
Did you buy one of those fancy setups, or did you kind of go homebrewer style and cobble it all together?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
I've eventually moved to a Blickman system pretty quickly when I couldn't quite get what I wanted out of the cobbled together stuff.
Oh, nice. All right, guys. What do you think about Jake's beer here? Let's jump right into it.
Well, pretty nice beer.
All right, Brian. What do you
Brian? Yeah, that's all that. Slight
good.
disclaimer, we didn't know it was intended to be an Evil Twin clone until it was all over. Not that would have mattered, but we were basically just judging it by what we were given, which was a red IPA, so pretty much as an IPA and throwing a little allowance for having some extra caramel malt thrown in is what we figured. And I think we both liked it fairly well. Sort of a classic C-hop kind of nose, some pine, a little bit of gingery note to it. A lot of caramel malt in the nose. The ferment seemed pretty clean. Poured a really nice big head that just stayed around. I mean, it's still there now after we poured our little bit up here. Let's pour a little more for the camera here, if it'll show it. Yeah, maybe.
Let me see.
You'll see it past JP's head. No, we're going for the front one.
Let me switch cameras there. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a pretty good
With a nice logo on
camera too.
Yeah.
That's a nice head.
For regular IPA, way too much caramel in the nose and the flavor, but, since it's this, we basically factor that in as being okay. Still without all that, I would say if you're going to flag this as an IPA, if you're going to add that much extra caramel malts, the crystal malts to it, you probably should consider bringing the bittering up a bit. Because in the balance, it comes across more like a somewhat alcoholic amber ale, red ale sort of thing. It doesn't quite have that IPA level of bittering that I would expect. I'm not saying it's a bad beer, actually. It's quite nice. But if you're going to classify it as an IPA with a new color on it, you might want to try and bring that bittering up a little bit, because adding all that extra crystal malt's just going to fight back on that balance. Aside from that, it definitely had some alcohol. We were both picking that up. It's a very warming beer. It's clean alcohol, but it's definitely... We're figuring this is probably 8% or so. I know, what's on the recipe here?
Jake, what is that? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Yeah, that's about 7.3% alcohol.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Tastes stronger in my throat,
Like
but maybe that's just me.
8%.
It's all the salsa I had for lunch. Medium to high body. It's getting, again, a little big for the IPA in terms of richness, but again, with all the extra crystal malts, I guess we kind of expect that. In the end, I think it's more of a big amber ale than really an IPA, but, since it is what you call it, it is what it is, I guess, which doesn't mean much. Maybe just consider increasing the bitter a bit. I also thought it maybe tasted like it might have been a little bit old. Not bad, but I was getting some kind of faded flavors from the hops. I don't know when it was you brewed this, but I may just be misperceiving things too.
Or,
I don't know.
Or how old the hops were when you used
Exactly, yeah.
What year they were harvested.
Yeah. Anyways, in the end, I gave it a 34 point in the BJCP scale. If you entered it as straight as an IPA with no other sort of information, I probably had docked it several more points just because it's so rich and a little bit sweeter and doesn't have the bittering balance. But, seeing as that is a red one, is obviously featuring crystal malts more, I just sort of factored that into the score.
All right. Very good.
Dr. Brian?
Yeah.
I'm afraid you've missed your tea
Doctor.
time, so.
Likely I got a big citrus and some piney notes, some nice pineapple in there, some really cool hop notes, and coming across fairly fresh, but because they're big in the aroma, but a little bit of perfuminess and some hints that they're maybe starting to age, but not really. Not off or anything. It's a pretty fresh beer, brewed in May
25th by the sheet here.
Yep. But the fruity esters are medium high, in check for the style. The malt showed some richness right up front in the aroma there. It was almost to balance with the hop aromas in the aroma section. When I get to flavor, it's pretty much almost even there. It's a really nice balance between the malt and the hops. Of course, for an American IPA, if you're judging it as a straight American IPA, you want the hops to be a little more forward than that. But it works. I like the presentation of that. Had kind of a fresh baked biscuit kind of note in that in the malt profile, and I thought I got a hint of a little butterscotchy note, but nothing unpleasant. It was just a pretty good aroma, and bright and clear, deep kind of coppery amber color with a big fluffy, plentiful head. Very good retention. A nice light tan kind of beige head that stuck around for a long time, and it's still floating around here. It's still going. So in the flavor, what I got in the flavor that was kind of interesting, and I did judge it as it was brought to us as a red IPA, or that's what it said on the label. It is a pretty richly malty beer. The base malt's low, and there's some caramel and interesting darker malt notes kind of popping out. There was chocolatiness and almost a faint roastiness in there that pushed it up to the point where it was fighting with the hops a little bit. But clean ale fermentation there. Again, some of the citrus and pine notes in the hops, really pleasant stuff. Finished pretty dry, kind of like an IPA should, but yet when I got on the mouthfeel, the body felt kind of medium to almost a bit fuller because it's so big. And the carbonation is medium to high. There's a lot going on in the mouthfeel where you put this beer in your mouth and it's a big warming, and a touch of alcohol warmth in there because it's pretty hefty, and
you have to kind of take your time with this one. I think
it feels substantial. So and as some of the CO2 gets driven off, you get a little more of the sweetness in there, and it's that side of it shines through a little bit with the malty stuff in there, all the happy malt. So it's a damn tasty IPA, leaning towards the redder side of the spectrum for style. I don't know. Would this be? Yeah, this would be acceptable for style. If Celebration Ale can be a classic example of a IPA, then this beer works. But it's definitely
That's a good point.
It's definitely not an American amber. It would be too hoppy for that style, so you wouldn't want to enter it there. If I was going to go for an American IPA, I would suggest backing off the darkest malts in this. I see you have a couple ounces of pale chocolate malt in there, 300 SRM. And it gives it a nice note. It does work with that, but for the Evil Twin clone, I'd say leave that in exactly where it's at. For the American IPA, I'd say back it off a bit and bring up, if you want to get a red IPA that has classic IPA flavors, bring up some of the other colored malts in there. There's some Munich in there you could bring up a bit, and some darker crystal, or something else. But experiment around with it if you want. This is a good place to start. You can do some fun things with it. You could lower the OG and perhaps use a slightly more attenuative yeast to lighten up the body a bit and have that kind of IPA like thing. But I've had Evil Twin many times, and I think it's pretty close. It's in the territory.
I think it's pretty close. I think it could be a little darker. I think Evil Twin is kind of more ruby, and then this, it seems a little more on the orange side.
Yeah, it's kind of what I remember. It's a little bit darker than this. So there, maybe you might need a hair more of that chocolate malt,
right?
Or some more crystals, or something in there to bring the color up.
Yeah, it is, and Evil Twin is a fairly roasty. I mean, there are roast notes in there.
Yeah, well, that is a sort of traditional IPA approach. Just throw in a few ounces of roast malt just to bring the color in. Very old school approach.
Yeah. Jake, what do you think about that?
You guys are spot on just about everything. One of the things that you said was the age of it. This really was pretty different beer about 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. The malt has just totally, come into play in this beer a lot. The hops were a lot more pronounced about 3 weeks ago. So that's interesting to hear you guys say. And of course, the size, that was actually a mistake on the OG. Overshot that by quite a bit. And then the color, I've actually adjusted the recipe that Justin gave on the air. I think it was like 1.5 ounces of roasted barley, and then 2 ounces of Carafa 3. So I dropped that down, and I kind of knew that was going to give me something a little bit lighter. But everything else was everything was spot on. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Yeah, no, that was a good beer.
We filled out real score sheets for you too.
Yeah, really. Don't let JP not mail them back to you or scan them or send them.
I've been scanning them. I've
promises
scanned.
us.
I scanned all those, and that's my new routine, boys.
Scanner.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I actually
Make your head explode.
In some ways, I like that beer better, and I scored it. It's just so hard to peg to any real style. It's sort of in the middle there everywhere, but it's really drinkable beer. It's very nice, very clean. Good job.
Yeah, it could be when the style guidelines come out, when they're revised someday down the road, they'll have a place to put a hoppier amber ale and an imperial hoppy amber ale kind of thing, so along the lines of Arrogant Bastard and all those kind of beers. There's not really a place to put some of those beers right now.
Yeah, you think that's the way it's going?
I think so.
For sure, yeah.
It's possible. Or you could play the Category 23 game and try and give it some name that will direct the judges to think exactly as you were, and good luck with that.
Yeah, we think as judges, and we judge as judges, but I like, leaving room for creativity, and that's, Category 23, you can get a lot of different things in there and be swamped with other crazy things that might jump out at a judge a little more, too. So with a beer like this, it's just, it's a red IPA, it's maybe not going to stand out there either, so you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, but hey, just drink it, it's a nice beer. I gave it a 37.
Oh, nice. Jake, do you have any specific questions for the boys?
Yeah, actually, one of the challenges with this beer, and this was one of my first attempts at something this hoppy, and I ferment in carboys, and of course I just threw the hops in the carboy, and this was a double dry hop, so I did like an ounce and a half at 7 days, an ounce and a half at 4 days later, and so I ended up with just a ton of loose pellet hops in the carboy, and racking was a challenge. And then even after it got in the keg, I actually plugged the dip tube, and I couldn't. I mean, on the fourth bottle, when I was bottling, sending these to you guys, the fourth one just stopped. So I had to pull the dip tube and clean everything out and put it back in. So what solutions would you guys recommend to kind of address that issue? I'd like to not have to use hop, like a sack for hops. I kind of feel like I'd like to get more contact time. So maybe a racking solution. What do you guys think?
Yeah, dealing with that many hops can be a challenge, and I think for everybody that's worked with a beer like that, with all those hops going on, you might have to do some adjustment to your system and figure something out to deal with that mass. And yeah, I don't like using bags either. I feel it just limits the contact with the wort. At the end, if you want to, use a whirlpool system at the end of the boil and get some of that hop matter to kind of form a cone in the middle of the kettle, you can do, get a pump set up and run it through a tangential flow wort chiller kind of setup. You can also use a hop back, hop screens. There's all kinds of devices out there. Blickman and other people make these different contraptions that you either I don't know if are you familiar with some of those, Lee? That what do you use when you're making a hoppy beer?
Not really. I mean, for the kettle, yeah, I try and whirlpool, and I have a screen inside my out valve. For dry hops in a fermenter,
but yeah,
you can put them in a bag. You can put a bag over the end of the racking cane. None of those are terribly satisfactory, and I always worry about contaminating. For something like that, honestly, I think the thing I do more often than most is I would, a couple days before racking it out, I might swirl it up a bit and prop it up. So like one side's a few inches higher than the other, and hopefully it all settles more to one side, and then when I'm racking, I can take from the other side. You can try and limit it a bit that way, but it's just a pain. I mean, sometimes I put these things through a filter into a second keg if it's really bad.
Yeah, people have done that. I know people cut their dip tube if they'll have a dip tube and a keg specially for dry hop beers.
Yeah, or you don't siphon from the bottom. Yeah.
Okay,
it's avoidance.
Yeah. Sorry, we were talking about dry hops. I'm in space here a little bit.
Yeah, it's just chunky avoidance. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, I do the carboy leaning thing too, but I just do it when I get my carboy out to I just roll up some towels or something and lean it as far as I can and use my get my auto siphon on the side that doesn't have, there's clips and rubber bands and all kinds of things holding that auto siphon so it doesn't go to the other dark side where all the hops live.
Chunky avoidance, just like in your 20s.
Yeah. And it's easy to clog up a keg with those too. Yeah, if you get just a few hop particles coming through. I've cut off a bunch of my dip tubes because I do make a bunch of hoppy beers.
What do you think, Jake? Answer your question?
Yeah, good tips. Cool. I've been wanting to try a shorter dip tube. What would you recommend to start with? Like, how much would you cut off of a dip tube?
Maybe start cutting off a quarter inch or something like that. Don't go too crazy, or you'll lose a pint or two of beer in the bottom every time you fill your keg.
There is that line you have to find, I suppose. Yeah.
But
trial and error, just like brewing, man.
Cool. And by the way, the Blickman hot blocker does work very well.
Oh, can I borrow yours?
Actually, I need another one.
Yeah, I finally got a false bottom for my Megapot, so I'm gonna make some hoppy beers and see if they stay on top of that. I also put in a bazooka thing in the bottom of it, so I think it's gonna be a lot better. My Pliny clone, which I just kicked last night, having some beers with good buddy. Well, yeah, there's probably also in the dip tubes probably cut off on that one too. I could get some more beer out of there, but yeah. That one was a fun beer to deal with all the hops in that.
All right, Jake. Hey, thanks a lot, man, for sending us in beers. Really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, guys, for having me, and it was all good feedback. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, and let us know if you do this again and if our comments helped. Especially my comments. My comments were probably gold. So,
of course.
Yeah. Well, the color. I'm a genius. I'm just a genius. Anyway, thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right, buddy. Yeah, I did like that beer. It's good beer.
Yeah, no, it's very drinkable.
Tell you what, let's take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to get Richard on, and he has a dry stout for us, and this I'm looking forward to. So we'll be back after the end of the break, guys. Stay tuned. It's Dr. Homebrew.
This Mosaic Pale Ale from Rebel Brewer is delicious.
Yes, I enjoy it too.
Wait, did you hear that? It sounds like a velociraptor.
Why would a velociraptor be here? That doesn't make any sense.
He's going for my beer.
I'll stop him.
It looks like our frightening friend just has a thing for Rebel Brewer hoppy beers.
RebelBrewer.com has the largest selection of grains on the planet. And if you order before noon, most orders will ship the same day. 2/3 of the country gets their orders in 2 days or less. Rebel Brewer, the velociraptor of homebrew shops. Why wait? Quick, flexible, speedy, fast, not slow and fast, and speedy.
Visit rebelbrewer.com today, or I'll rip your face off.
Oh, and he'll totally do it, too.
Visit today at rebelbrewer.com.
Hey, dude, you know what beer this is?
No, all the labels are falling off.
Yeah, or the ink is run.
Well, if it's the pale ale, you're good, but stay away from the quote-unquote Belgian.
Oh, man, this guy needs to get some grog tags.
Grog tags are reusable, write-on, wipe-off, commercial-grade bottle labels for your brew. The guys at Grog Tag are homebrewers. They wanted great-looking, sturdy labels for your bottles, buckets, carboys, kegs, and growlers. They also wanted a label that not only looks good, but can be easily removed and reapplied during bottling without that nasty glue residue being left behind. No residue, water-resistant, and ice chest approved. Grog tags stay on in water or an ice chest, and they stay legible. Visit grogtag.com to customize your label or coaster from dozens of different templates for free and see how awesome your bottles can look.
It's that pseudo-Belgian.
Yeah, we're getting him some grog tags, dude.
Grog Tag. At least your beer will look good. grogtag.com. Are you a member of the American Homebrewers Association? Well, you should be. Members of the AHA can focus on brewing beer, and the AHA takes care of the rest. The American Homebrewers Association advocates on behalf of homebrewers like you to legalize the hobby in all 50 states and make sure that beer laws make sense. Plus, there are many great benefits that come with your AHA membership, like AHA member deals that give you awesome deals at bars, restaurants, breweries, and more. Zymergy Magazine and Zymergy for tons of articles, how-tos, easy-to-follow recipes, and news about the hobby you love, and access to the members-only content on homebrewersassociation.org. But the AHA can't do it without your support. Join today so the American Homebrewers Association can keep fighting for your homebrewing rights. Visit homebrewersassociation.org or join now from the homepage of the Brewing Network website. Relax. Don't worry. It's the American Homebrewers Association. Back to the examination.
I think from now on, all our rejoinders it's just gonna be me a cappella.
You're gonna be like the karaoke at the pizza place up the street, huh?
Yeah, what is that about? Karaoke at the pizza place? Going for a slice and a stanza, and you're good.
I'll tell you, 2 stanzas was enough to make me not want the slice anymore. It's pretty bad.
Half a slice and no stanzas.
That good, huh?
No. First person was there when I was in there was good. Second one, I was glad I was paying.
How many people? It's not free. Come in for karaoke. You get free pizza, but you have to listen to this karaoke.
Right. So insult your neighbors here.
They don't listen. It's fine. Richard, we got you?
I am here. Can you hear me?
All right. We got you loud and clear, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Hey.
Perfect.
Doing very well, thanks.
Are you taking a bath right now?
No, I'm. If there's an echo, I'm sitting in the living room.
Splashing some wort?
Seriously,
it sounds like dripping water.
Sounds like you're in the bathroom splashing around, just relaxing after a long day.
That's the aquarium.
The rubber ducky float, yeah.
When I Skype my mom, there's always a weird screeching sound in the background. That's like the mic or something. I don't know what it is. Or she has a ghost. I don't know.
She might have a ghost on Skype. All right, Richard. Well, thanks for sending your beer in, man. That's my voice cracks. That was very nice of you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
What style was it? Refresh our memories, please.
It's a dry stout.
A dry stout. Okay. And is this your first time making a dry stout?
No, this is the second time I made this particular recipe, and I've been just trying to tweak it and perfect it and get it to where I want, which is why I sent it in to you guys.
Awesome. Well, hope we can help you figure that out. How long have you been homebrewing?
I've been homebrewing about 13 years now.
Oh, wow. You're almost an old timer, man.
Yeah, I guess.
You remember when people used to recommend dry yeast? You can tell all the young people that.
I actually like to use dry yeast a lot.
Oh, well, see, there you go.
I'm a big fan.
All right, let's jump into Rich's beer. Brian, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, the aroma was fairly light overall. Had a kind of a light roastiness and some minor cocoa-like notes in there. Kind of a cold coffee roastiness. The esters were kind of a bit bright and citrusy-like. The hops were pretty low and kind of earthy, floral, generic under the malt. But yeah, just I thought it came across a bit papery, just maybe a slight touch of oxidation in the aroma. But I liked the flavor a lot better than the aroma. I'll get to that. But the beer is beautiful. It's deep black with a low tan-colored head that stuck around pretty nicely, and mostly fine bubbles and some kind of garnet highlights if you look at a hint of that at the corners of the glass. But so it looks like it has good clarity overall, but it's nearly opaque. It's a black beauty. It has and the flavor had a nice rich kind of semi-sweet chocolate notes and clean kind of roasted barley notes up front, and the coffee notes were, like I said, a little fresher tasting in the flavor. I didn't really pick up any oxidation in the flavor, so I'm not sure that might be some hitting me a little weird in the aroma. But it was finished dry as it should. That's good. Low bitterness and restrained hop notes. Clean ale fermentation. No diacetyl or DMS or anything like that. It was came across a little bit sharp and acidic. We noticed too, but I don't know. Sometimes a dry stout can have a percentage of soured beer added to it. Probably wouldn't come across that high, but
that's exactly what I did here.
To give it that Guinness thing. Okay, hey, we picked
Sorry
up on
to jump
something.
in there. I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, thank you. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's good.
Medium, kind of medium light body, and quite creamy. Carbonation was medium. Just a smooth beer, no warmth to speak of. Just what you want in a dry stout. A little hint of astringency from the roasted grains. Not bad. That can be in there for that style. Read the guidelines. Everybody go to bjcp.org and look up the styles and read along with us if you want. But that's what it's judged against. Or get the app for your smartphones. But yeah, it was a pretty tasty dry stout. The hint of sourness was interesting for it. I wouldn't say it tastes exactly like Guinness or anything. It's maybe a little higher on that note, but it was interesting. And but I would, the roasted notes could have been brought up a little more for this beer even, and it might have helped counterbalance some of those other things that were standing out, and some of the little odder notes I got in the aroma, maybe especially. But and also you can read some of the comments and books and things and speeches that Gordon Strong. We've talked about this on the show before too, about using dark malts and why do you have to put them in the full mash? No. You could put them in this, when you're sparging only in the top of the grain bed, or you could even steep them in the boil. Dark grains don't have to be mashed because they're not converting; they're already burnt to hell.
Right.
So, but yeah, and keep your yeast happy. That there might have been a little acetaldehyde in there, but keep do a plentiful pitch of yeast and maybe age it on the yeast a little longer to get rid of it. Cleans up some of the stuff that's kicked out early in fermentation, but. Yeah, otherwise a pretty good beer. I give it a 34. I liked it as a dry stout. Pretty in the very good range within the style parameters. Some little minor things you could tweak.
Right on,
Dr. Lee.
Wow, I'm supposed to add something to that? Okay.
I just read my whole score sheet. All
really?
Right, here you go. Thank you.
Well, most of it I can just reiterate pretty quickly. Nice, light, dry body. Very nice creaminess. I really like that. Great color. The appearance on this was about perfect. Very dark. If you hold it up to enough light, it's pretty clear. Made a nice head that persisted well, although the glass I have it now, that's no longer doing that, but there's no longer a clean glass. It's some very nice coffee and cocoa kind of flavors in it, and some aromas too. The aromas, as Brian said, they weren't as intense, but it was very much leaning sort of towards what I would call the lighter palette of roast flavors and aromas. It's more coffee and cocoa, not so much ash or charcoal or some of the darker or more intense roast sort of aromas and flavors. I would see, and I would actually I kind of like that in a dry stout, although it's not what all of them are like. I would say this maybe is more like a Murphy's than a Guinness. Guinness tends to be a little more ashy roasty, whereas as I remember the Murphy, or maybe I'm thinking the Beamish, I see that more often, is a little more chocolately than a Guinness is.
A little smoother.
Definitely picked up on that acidity that was in there. How much of that soured malt or mash did you add in here? I'm kind of curious.
Well, I went for I grabbed some beers from the last batch, and I opened them up and let them sit for around 2 to 3 days, and put about two bottles worth of the soured beer into the boil. So it did turn out a little more acidic than what I would have liked, but it accomplished what I was going for there.
That's a 5-gallon or 10-gallon?
A 5-gallon batch.
So 2, that's
24 ounces.
That's about
24 ounces.
I'm smart.
And what's 2 cases roughly in a 5-gallon batch? That's 42. That's 1. And that's about right. I think the classic Guinness recipe was like 3%, and this is going to be about 1 in 24 is about 4% here, I guess. Yeah, that's pretty close. Yep. It's a little, maybe a little strong in the sour. I'm curious, did you do any pH treatments on the beer for the mash, or for extracting the grains, or for adjustments in the kettle on this?
No, I don't. I don't do any kind of pH adjustments to the mash. We have moderately hard water here, so I just pretty much use the water as it is, and don't adjust anything.
Right. Do you monitor the pH as you sparge this out?
Nope.
You might want to consider that, because the one thing I'm picking up here, there's I think maybe a little acetaldehyde Brian noticed. I didn't note this earlier, but this bottle maybe is coming through now. I may be getting a little bit of kind of a husky flavor in here. A little, it's not like puckering, but a little astringency.
Yeah, there was a hint of astringency, not horrible.
Which is always an issue with a stout, but that's the sort of thing, if you over-sparge with all this roast grain, the pH starts to get out of whack. You might start pulling out a lot of extra nasties. Doing a sparge on this.
This is one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about, was the astringency, because it's a flavor in the beer that I just don't like, and it's overpowering for me. And in my last batch I did, it was even more so. So what I did was I cut back on the amount of roasted barley I used, and basically I used in the last batch I used a pound of roasted barley, so I cut it back to a half pound, and then added another half pound of the dehusked dark malt. And it's still a little more than what I'd like. I've never had an astringency problem in any of my other beers, so I'm just kind of wondering, what are some things I can do to help solve it with this dark beer?
Yeah, the dehusk is a good idea. It will definitely help with that. Although you also have to keep in mind, is that the flavor profile that you want? Are you getting the right flavor out of that? The Carafa can help with that, and some of the new ones like the Breeze Midnight Wheat and things like that are also appropriate for that. The other thing you can do is mostly the astringency coming out of a mash is you're leaching tannins out. Leaching tannins out of the husks, and that tends to happen. Catch me, make sure I get this right. As you start sparging it all out, the pH will start to rise.
Right.
Now, you almost don't expect that's going to be such a problem with stout because you got all those acidic malts in there, the dark malts. But if you've got hard water, which tends to be higher in pH, if you keep sparging that out, that might push it up even faster. So you may need to add a little bit of acid to your sparge water, like a kappa lactic or something. Excuse me.
Yeah. Whoa, bless you.
Excuse me. It's not the beer, trust me.
He's allergic to chemistry.
Right, I'm allergic to chemistry. Oh, I proved that many years ago.
Well, and backing off the darkest malts may even be counterproductive to that, too, because you're taking away some of the acidic stuff.
Yeah, and you're also taking away the stout.
So I would leave the dark grains where they were originally, probably. I'm guessing, and then find different ways to extract the flavors. Like I said, either you can just steep them in there, and instead of having them sitting in your mash the whole time, leaching out stuff from the husks into the mash and sparging through the whole thing, just steep it in the first part of your mash, and you get a lot less of that astringent kind of character. Or you can put it in the top of your mash and sparge over the top of it. And just experiment with it. But yeah, it's leaving it in the full mash for the full time if that's what you did, and backing off the roasted malts and having that pretty highly carbonate water is gonna be a recipe for pulling out some astringency, especially if you sparge a little hotter and if you let that pH rise up above towards say 6. You want to be sparging around 168 tops, and that's Fahrenheit for you people in Europe. Yeah, and keep the pH in check.
Yeah, pH under 5.5 or 5.6 stops probably.
One of the things that Jamil mentions in his book, and I also heard Doc mentioning this in one of the archive shows, the session shows, was to basically pulverize the dark malts before you put them in the mash, which is just grind the crap out of them. And to me that seems counterintuitive in this beer in terms of keeping down the stringency, but it was just something that I noticed after I had brewed this that was mentioned in those places. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, it would seem counterintuitive, but let me throw you another counterintuitive puzzle. Have you ever done a decoction mash?
No, I haven't tried it.
So yeah, think about that. I mean, you take a bunch of mashed in grain, you pull it out, and you boil it, and you make a wonderful, smooth, totally husk flavor-free German lager out of it. How does that work? Basically, because you've got the full mash right there, it controls the pH, and if you keep the pH in the right range, you don't get those nasty husk extractions. So really, it's the same for a stout. You can grind the bejesus out of those roast grains. I do that all the time. I'll do that. I'll do a cold extract, or I'll add it in the mash. I played around with it every single way you can imagine. Well, that I could imagine. And in the end, really, the key to it was getting the pH control right. And there was one more aspect to that, and unfortunately, my memory is about to fail me on this. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say the way I think. Catch me if you think I'm wrong on this. But from what I remember, especially for doing like the cold extractions, but for extracting color and maybe the flavor as well out of the roast malts, you're almost better going up to the high end of the pH range. So I remember adding a lot of the calcium into my extract. Now, I'm somewhat afraid I may have got that dead wrong and in reverse, but I'll have to check up on this. Maybe one of the listeners can open up the right book and figure this out. But this is a couple years ago that I did that. But that would actually help it help get the color out properly. Because sometimes I do cold extracts, you wouldn't get the color that well.
not getting
But
all that.
something like that helped.
Yeah, this one definitely got the color, so this is good on that front.
Yeah. So, but in the end, really, it's all down to pH. But what you said about pulverizing the grains is a good idea because they're hard crystalline nuts and they do not want to go into solution easily. So, yeah, give them more surface area.
Just bash them all up.
Yeah.
Mill them separately.
Yeah, I mean, I did mine in a coffee grinder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like a blade grinder, just chopped them up real fine.
That makes sense, too, because you're breaking it all apart and you're getting access to all the stuff in the middle of each kernel. And not just, if you broke the kernel in two and you have two ends of it floating around in there, then it's mostly contacting the husk and the ends of that. And, this way you're getting everything. So,
do you find you get like more of that flavor? So if you put, half a pound, let's say, of one of the dark malts and you bash them up real good, are you going to get a more intense flavor because there is more surface area? So should you back that down if that's what you do?
I would think you would, but I haven't really experimented with that, so I can't say for sure. But
I would. Well, it depends what kind of flavor you're after.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you should get more of the roast flavor out of that. I mean, the flaw I see more often is that people do a stout, they don't have enough of the roast in there.
Okay.
Because if you don't do it right, you won't get a good extraction on those.
Okay.
So yeah. Yeah, and if it's too much, well, you know what to do next time. Back it off by 10% or whatever you think you need.
Okay.
And you can also acidify your sparge water and see if that helps a little bit too. I don't know, with a pretty, it should be a pretty acidic mash and everything too. It should probably just work out as it is, but, without knowing or measuring the pH, you're not going to know. I don't really measure pH, but
if you should. Are you into stouts? I mean, you're going to make a lot of stouts. Is it a good favorite style of yours?
Yeah, I definitely, I like making stouts, and that's why I've been trying to perfect this recipe.
Right.
I have a nitro setup. I serve this on nitro, so it's just I love having dark beers around, and so definitely.
Right. So if you like stouts and you're going to make more stouts, you're basically fighting the battle of acidic grains and hard water. It would be worth investing in some way to control your pH because I think it'll make a big difference here.
Yeah, I did definitely want to take that on as kind of my next, process improvement, getting a pH meter and, going that route and testing the pH and then, adjusting with, minerals or whatever I need to do there. So.
Yeah. I think you would be on the right track with that.
Yeah, it sounds like you know what you're doing there, buddy. You've been brewing longer than I have, so hey. I'm only at 10 years. Damn.
I've been listening to the BN a lot, and I've learned a lot from you guys. So
good
for you.
Good. Well, thanks for listening, man. And thanks for sending in beers, Rich. I hope we helped out. And if you rebrew this, send it in.
Yeah, I definitely love to do that.
Perfect. All right, man. Yeah, thanks a lot. We really appreciate it. And we're out of here. We're going to take a break real fast. And we're going to come back. We're going to do our traditional and super fantabulous wrap up segment where we just kind of recap all the advice that we've given because. Let's face it, it's worth recapping. And, so we'll be back after this.
Tin, Getting tired of that same old handcrafted beverages day after day? Are you looking for something with more diversity than your normal beer? Fellow BN Army member Michael Fairbrother, owner of Moonlight Meadery, is reviving an entire beverage category, mead.
The meads at Moonlight Meadery are all handcrafted from the finest honey on the market and are perfect for any occasion, like weddings, baby showers, or...
Excuse me? Mead is not your average girly drink, mister, and Moonlight Meads can be enjoyed anytime, anywhere. Football games with the guys.
Yeah.
Barbecues with the guys.
Yeah.
Operating power tools with the guys.
Yeah. Actually, sir, that's really dangerous.
Good point, son.
Next time you have something to celebrate or are just looking for a new tasting experience, pick up a bottle of mead from Moonlight Meadery. Now in 21 states, making over 60 varieties of mead from dry, semi-sweet to sweet.
Break out of that craft beer lull. Grab a bottle of Moonlight Mead. Can't find some? Then ask. No, make that demand some.
Yeah!
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. Oh, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
All right, thanks for sticking with us, everybody. This is the final segment of Dr. Homebrew. I know it's real sad, and you're probably looking at your radios and going, what is going on? What do you mean, the final segment? But, alas.
Of tonight.
It's true. Of tonight, yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for the update.
There will be more. We're not quitting yet.
Right. We're not getting that messianic here.
Yeah, we're over it. It's just we're done.
We don't have aquariums in the background. We got trains.
We got model
here,
trains.
man.
Actually, they're real ones.
We do have real trains, and you can hear them through the door, which is amazing to me. But whatever. It's living in beautiful Martinez. It's the lifestyle we can afford. What? I don't even know what that means. Okay, well let's quickly run through these beers that we had. The first one was from Jake, and that was the Evil Twin Cologne, the red or West Coast style red ale, red IPA, or whatever you want to call it. The major flaw, well, not flaw, but the major point of improvement I remember you guys saying is that you can probably bring the bitterness up to kind of combat all those kind of crystal malts that were hanging out in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a very nice beer, very tasty, very drinkable. But if you're going to call it an IPA, sort of, to me, came across more like a just sort of slightly bigger alcoholic amber ale. So I would say since you can add all the extra crystal malt in there, bring the IBUs up to balance it out in an IPA style again.
Yeah, the hops were just balanced with the malt and the flavor, and it was richly malty, and a little more bitterness wouldn't hurt in that. You wouldn't want to go crazy with it with that much going on with this beer. Leaning for a red IPA. You could get away with that, though. It balances it even a little bit better. Yeah.
Or you could go crazy and put a lot.
Go crazy. Then it's already. I think this one was already pretty big and imperial-y.
Might regret it.
Just push it into space.
Okay, and then we had Rich, who we just talked to, and he had that wonderful dry stout. And there were a couple things that you guys were talking about he could do. Mainly, it was that control that pH for those dark malts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He did some cool recipe stuff too, and it sounds like he's experimenting and brewing things over and over again, which is always a good strategy. Do a stout, tweak a couple things about it, one thing at a time if you can, and brew it over and over if it's a style you like, and you can arrive at a good recipe and a good way to brew it. It's not just your recipe, it's your process too. And
absolutely,
yeah, looking at the sparge on this one is where we need to be in the mash and making sure pH and everything's right is at least probably spot on with that. I think.
Make sure you get your mash pH right, and then don't let the sparge water rise up. Your pH rise up high, especially for him. He had this, lots of rose grain and a very hard water he was dealing with, so high pH probably. So it might raise that pH up into the tannin extraction zone where you don't want to be quicker than you think on a sparge.
And as tempting as it may be, don't use your aquarium water for sparging, please.
But they have a pump. He has a pump. Be fine.
Yeah, well, fish pump out a lot of acidity. It might actually help keep the pH down.
Yeah, it's called poo, isn't it?
No, it's the other one.
Oh, pee.
Fish urea.
Do they pee?
I adjust my pH with it.
Or is it like uric acid, like chickens and birds and stuff?
And they clap in the woods, too, with one fin. I don't know.
You don't know everything about the anatomy of a fish. I'm appalled.
I'm more of a dog
I wouldn't admit
cat
to
person.
No. I wouldn't admit to it. Well, I wouldn't either, to be honest with you. Fish are weird.
You probably would, actually.
I probably would.
You probably would.
I'd probably be real proud of that.
Yeah. So
I know that chickens and birds have a vent. They just have one hole.
That's the right word for it.
That everything comes in and out of. Just one. That's it.
Do you have reptiles?
I don't have reptiles,
okay.
no.
You seem like the reptile kind of guy.
Well, yeah, their feet are real reptile-y. Reptilian in nature. But no, reptiles, I'm not really. It's not my thing. Salmonella is, I don't know. Let's get out of here. What do you guys think?
Okay.
Yeah, it's time for a beer.
It's time for, yes, absolutely. Thank you to Jake and Rich for donating the beer, and of course for Lee and Brian to come on in. Obviously, you couldn't do the show without you guys. If you're interested in being a guest on Dr. Homebrew, email me, jp@thebrewingnetwork.com for more info. We are kind of backed up right now, so it might take me a little bit to get to your email, but I promise you I will respond to you. So shoot me an email. We'll get you booked up on the show. Thanks again for tuning in. This has been Dr. Homebrew. Take care, everybody. Woo.